So we lit the tavern. So we lit the tavern on fire. That's the usual thing that we're supposed to do, right?
It's not more than 10 or 15 minutes as you're moving north. It doesn't take long to find the road again, moving out of the village. And the orange glow behind you doesn't last for long. So whatever fire Destil set to the long haul was doused pretty quickly. And it's the dead of the night. And I'm assuming at this point you guys are stopping to regroup, put on your armor, get your equipment ready, take stock of what rations you have. And an argument breaks out amongst your number. Primarily between Donique and the Ambersons, that Donique is just slowing them down. She's a liability to everybody. Abernathy's argument is that this place, wherever you are, is just one nightmare after another. And that if we begin to fight amongst ourselves, then there's no hope for anybody to find safety. Gila wants to abandon Donique. Her opinion at this moment is if it was not for Denny playing the fool and sleeping by the door like an asshat, they could have positioned people above everybody, murdered all of us in our sleep. Nobody would have known. And remember, she's already half deaf. She already can't hear most of the time. She thinks it was smart for you guys to abandon Denny like that, leave him behind, don't even double back for a second look. She didn't see Ekon turn around and light him on fire.
No, yeah, so that Ekon will just say, don't worry, there's no one needed to turn around for Denny.
He got himself killed. They didn't kill him. He killed himself.
So where do you all stand on the topic of Donique?
No.
We're not leaving her behind.
Oh, there's absolutely no reason to leave her behind.
Evie doesn't even like her and doesn't want to leave her behind.
There's absolutely no reason to bring her along either. The child, too. That squalling can be heard for miles. Who knows what's out here?
And the dog barking, too.
Yeah, the dog's really upset about this situation.
Jayla, we're keeping her with us. We've lost 2. If you don't like it, you are welcome to go off on your own.
We should have never left the river. We should have stayed the course, and rivers flow to oceans. Oceans have ships.
Oceans have sharks.
Jayla, when we find an ocean, when we find a ship, I believe you'll probably be more than free to go on your own way, but we're going to continue together as a group. My only question is, do we want to try and have anyone slip back into the village and see if they can find what became of Paladin? And who else was missing?
Lahir.
Lahir.
We have familiars.
Yeah, I think it's best to send the familiars to scout for that. Or in the morning, you can prepare sending. No.
So using the familiars to scout, you just see some kind of activity in, I think it was Victor who had found the field, had found the opening. They drag Denny's charred corpse and dump him down into the salt mine through the opening in the field. Then as far as you can tell, the village goes back to sleep.
Do we go back in the morning and see what...
Do you want to fight them?
Do you want to throw them all in the salt mine?
I really would rather not go back to that place.
Well, the thing is it seemed to me like there was something controlling
I told you there was a guy in the salt mines.
I swear to God, if you say Salt Megillah one more time, I told you I would cover you in acid, and I will do it.
No, I don't think...
Because I'm right.
I'm not sure that's even what's actually happening. It's like what happened, like when we're talking about when we were here.
Yeah.
Like that whole place seemed like it had been constructed specifically to screw with us. I'm starting to think, those halflings weren't even actually real. They were constructed by this world to screw with us.
I mean, they were real.
Trieste shows you the arrow wound that she took to her upper leg. This is real enough.
Yeah.
All right.
And Edmont gestures to the little girl's doll and says, "No, they seem fairly real to me."
Do we?
You know who really screwed us over is that old man who said, "Oh yeah, you could go with them. They're great."
No, you know who really screwed us over? The guy in the painting that we don't know about. because somebody didn't share.
It's fine.
So suffice it to
Rule
say,
of
there's
threes.
just a lot of arguing and bickering until the sun comes up.
Right. Are we going to go to this village?
How exposed is the entrance to the salt mine?
How exposed?
In terms of like if someone's trying to sneak into it, like without being seen by the villagers.
They would have to move the large wooden pallet out of the way. As long as they weren't announcing their presence with light, because it's fairly far away from any of the houses in one of the fallow fields.
We know where the entrance on top is, so we can just drop a rope down if you really want to go back inside. But Victor thinks we should just move to the next village.
Yeah, Jayla says that we shouldn't go to the next village or back to the previous one.
Where do you want to go?
What's the point from marching from one death scene to the next?
That's kind of what I'm getting at, but we don't have any other options.
I mean,
I think wherever we go, it's just going to be something that is there to kill us.
Orson's the only person left that can actually hunt, right?
We need to-
Leekern's with you. Leekern.
We need to see if we can't find Platin and Lear.
But
I mean, the other thing I could think is maybe is that Orson could look for tracks for either of them coming or going through the village on the outskirts.
And Orson pipes up, you want me to sneak back into the village and try to find out what happened to them? And he's saying this very unsurely.
Yeah.
We're not sending anyone back in that village alone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
This Jayla puts her
I can
hand
go
down
with
on her
you.
pistol so we could go back and exterminate them. Take the village for ourselves. There's plenty of food, doesn't take much to kill them.
We don't know if they're under something else's control or if they're always like that.
It seems they did seem to be under somebody else's control, and if we stay, we might fall under their control as well. So I don't think taking the village is a good idea.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, didn't you guys like have something weird happen to you when you were in that big shell-shaped cave with the frog people?
Yeah. The child that got thrown in the fire pit seemed to snap out of it. None of the others did, you said?
No, the child was just crying.
To the child.
Yeah, she was badly injured.
What is who saw so Edmont saw the person on the Edmont, and we don't know this, but Edmont saw the straw hat person, but somebody else saw another vision, and that was Evie, right?
Yeah, I have no idea what it meant.
And it was a man
you
on
have to refresh my memory.
There was a regal man. He looked like a king sitting on a throne, and he looked at me, and that was all that happened. I don't see any way we could draw any kind of conclusions from that.
Is that how we're going to decide our next course of action? We're all going to stand here and discuss our dreams. Jayla is livid at this point.
Listen, let's just go to the next village. We'll assume we're going to get attacked and plan accordingly, and we'll see what additional information we can get.
I suppose
Platten and whoever else knew we were headed to the next village, right?
Yeah, you guys were planning on leaving this morning.
Yeah.
So
That's
if
fair
they're still alive, I have no doubt they'll meet us at the next village.
and then
Do
if not, we
do
could
we
try
have
and
some
contact
sort of-
them. Go ahead.
Do we have any sort of magical means to get in touch with them? Because
In the morning.
All
I
right.
need to ask Air for
No.
new spells.
Not much else to do for it than to keep moving.
Right now, Jayla's right. We have no use sitting here in the middle of the woods. We need to go somewhere. So let's just head to the next village. Unless
That's
we
what
want
I said.
to stab ourselves again.
So follow the road to the bridge.
Yeah.
And it is an uneventful but very tense march along the road. And there are times that all of you, it comes across like you feel like you can still hear the song stalking behind you, but every time you turn around and cast your lights, the road is just empty behind you until eventually the large wooden bridge comes into view above. And it looks like it's in relatively good repair. And it's long, too. The river is fairly wide at this point.
Start approaching the bridge, I guess, and make our way across.
Heading across.
Yeah.
Stepping out onto the bridge, after about a minute or two, you realize that mist is rolling off of the water and creeping up onto the wooden planks of the bridge. By the time all of you notice it, and turning around, you see the mist roiling behind you as well, and you realize you can no longer see the path that you just left.
Can we see the path forward?
You can see the bridge you're standing on, but you can't see where it ends at either point. After another minute or so, it becomes difficult for your light to part the mist in front of you.
Everybody lock hands. We were told not to go in the mist by the man in the cart.
Well, the man on the cart tried to get us killed by a bunch of short people, so I'm...
No, he
Donique! Donique, get back up! You look behind you. Trieste is on her knees, trying to shake her sister awake. She's gone completely limp and unconscious.
Orson, get her up.
Yeah, Orson will pick her up, and Princess Carrie.
Who among you has the lowest Constitution score?
Oh, that's a good question.
14.
14.
12.
12.
Eugenia, can you beat a 12?
14.
14? I need you 12 to make me a Constitution saving throw, please.
I could do that. I could do that 9 times.
No, just once.
Thank you.
I got a 13.
Let me see if I can use psionic dice for saving throws.
You cannot. Bill checks.
That'll be a 5.
Okay. So, Victor, no sooner does that you look over, you see Orson stooping down to try to pick Donique back up to her feet. Your head starts swimming and you feel very woozy, and then you just black out. Those standing next to you, there's just a thump as you see Orson or Victor go to his knees, then slump forward on the bridge.
Edmont scrambles, pulls him up to fireman carry him.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tenny is the next one to drop.
All
Evie
right.
will pick her up.
Dash, everybody, run across the bridge, quick as possible.
So who's carrying somebody right now? Edmont is carrying Victor. Orson is carrying Donique. Who's carrying Tenny?
Evie.
Evie? So the three of you carrying somebody, I need Constitution saving throws from the three of you, please.
That's a 3.
A 3. So yeah, Evie. You're picking Tenny up, and she's just dead weight. She's completely unconscious. And you get your arms around her, and just by the time you get to your feet, your knees buckle, your legs wobble, and you pass out next.
What
19.
kind of place is this?
I run over to both of them.
And then Trieste is the next one to drop after that, and Abernathy shortly after. So that leaves Edmont, Ekon, and Genie, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll give you all time for about one action before we
Edmont calls out, "Who the hell is doing this? You need to parlay."
Edmont cries out for respite, cries out for parley, and after that, his strength is spent.
Ekon is going to kneel and speak a prayer to air.
And before you fall under the effects, air does not answer. Genie, you therefore are the last one to drop. And you think you hear, as your strength goes out from your legs, you can't drag all of your companions to safety.
Right.
But you drop to your... Are you looking forward across the bridge the direction you were traveling, or looking back the direction you came from?
I was looking back because, like, we were going to run, and then as people started to fail, I would have looked back.
Okay. So you hear footfalls behind you. Sounds like heavy boots on the wood, but before you have an opportunity to turn around and look, you black out as well. Evie, would you do me the courtesy of joining me in the puzzle room, please?
Uh-oh. Oh, this is going to be fun. Do I have to leave this chat to do that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just drag yourself down to the puzzle.
And we will just wait for Evie to appear.
Hello.
Evie, you dream. You see yourself in a large field,
Mm-hmm.
not unlike the ones that surrounded Magreer's village. But you're swarmed on all sides by dead men, relentlessly pressing in towards you. 100 of them, 200. It's impossible to say. And you and your family are standing ground in the center of this field. But they're falling to pieces. Nobody's taking charge. Everybody's talking over each other. And it falls to you. You realize if you don't get everybody together, that they're all going to die in this place. So, when an ally makes a weapon attack at advantage as the result of your Master of Tactics feature, any roll below a 10 becomes a 10 instead. And the attack is a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20. If their attack still misses or causes no damage due to damage immunity, you may immediately use your reaction to grant the advantage and improved critical benefits to another ally instead. Does that all make sense?
Okay, so if I, basically from now on, if I use my Master of Tactics ability, if their roll becomes a 10 if it's less than 10, and it crits on a 19. And I can pass it to someone else if they still miss.
Does that all make sense?
Yes, I understand.
Do you accept this ability?
In exchange for what?
The dead men are swarming around you.
Evie wouldn't let her family die.
So you accept the ability?
Yes.
Swarmed by the dead men, you begin barking orders to your companions, directing them where to go, how to act, what to do, regaining everybody's composure, and you marshal a counterattack against the dead men. And you get right into the swing of it, like a warlord commanding her troops, or a chess master moving her pieces and pawns. And you give an order to Denny to hold the line in a particular direction, and he delights in the savagery to such degree and to such great effect that he cannot be called off. Once you've given him that extra layer of tactical advantage, that extra composure he needed, he cannot be rid of it. And as the last of the dead men fall, he turns that savagery upon your other family members, and you are powerless to stop him. So I will DM you your improved class feature on Discord, and you can add it to your character sheet. And if you would please send Jeannie over.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hi. Jeannie,
Huh?
you dream. The dream takes place in the middle of a field, not unlike the ones outside of Magreer's village. And you're being swarmed on all sides by dead men. 100, 200. It's impossible to know. And you and your family are standing there with their last stand. And you realize that it's hopeless. There's no way out. You're completely spent. You're tapped. All of your equipment, your magical infusions, are drained at this point. When you attune to a magical item that does not have charges, you may permanently imbue it with the magic of a spell scroll. In addition to its usual properties, the item gains a number of charges equal to your Artificer level. You may invoke the item's power to cast the spell as a use an item action, or on your turn by spending a number of charges equal to the spell's level, or one charge for a cantrip. The item regains all of its spent charges at the end of a long rest. You may change the spell stored in the item by reattuning to it and consuming a different spell scroll. Did all that make sense?
I can use a spell scroll and load it into. You say I load it into what?
A magical item that does not have charges.
Okay. And then I can use. Is it anybody can use or just me?
You may invoke the item's power to cast the spell as a use an item action on your turn.
Okay. And there's no limit on the level of the scroll?
Gains a number of charges equal to your Artificer level. So that would
Okay.
be the practical limit. If once your Artificer level is 9, you would have access to any spells you can put on a scroll.
Which is none because. Well, which is level 5. Okay, yeah. My spells only go up to level 5.
Right,
All right.
but at level 9, you would have 9 charges to put in the scroll.
Right. That is the calculator. That is not a notepad.
Do you accept this feature?
Oh, do I accept the feature?
Do you accept?
I'm so walk me through like what's like we're being attacked on all sides and then just like a voice comes out and says that you can do this now.
Do you accept?
Uh yes.
Okay. I'm going to paste your improved class feature into Discord. And you can put it on your character sheet.
Is this a replacement for a class feature?
No, this is just in addition to whatever other class features you gain
Okay.
from being an Artificer. And if you would please send Edmont over next.
Okay.
Potato wedges.
Potato wedges.
Yeah.
All right, I'll have some. Are you offering?
I wish I had more. I had potato wedges for breakfast this morning. So,
Edmont,
sir,
you dream.
well,
You're fighting against a mass of dead men. 100, 200, it's hard to say. Surrounded on all sides. You find yourself in a field, not unlike the ones outside of McGreer's village. And your family is with you. But you're completely spent. Everything's gone. You know that it's hopeless. Each unarmed weapon attack you make as part of Flurry of Blows automatically gains the properties of Stunning Strike. Do you accept this improved class feature?
yeah. Let's make the bad decision.
Unequivocally, yeah. Okay. I'm going to paste this into the Discord, and you can copy it onto your character sheet.
Will do.
The dream continues. You're fighting off dead men left and right as they approach you and Ekon in the center of the field. And with each strike, the dead man comes to a stop and then collapses. You're felling them by the dozens. It's only too late do you realize, as the last of the dead men go down, that your arms and legs are no longer following your brain's commands. They, in some kind of strange fugue, acting of their own accord as a separate entity of your own mind. Go ahead and send Victor over, if you would, please.
Absolutely. Give me just a moment because I've been tabbing all over the damn place.
Oh, you play Vampire Survivor still?
No, actually I'm trying to type all this stuff in and damn it. Okay, there it is.
So I heard that you're making some tasty potato wedges.
I would love some potato wedges. I can have some. Publix makes them.
They do.
Victor,
What's up?
you dream. You find yourself besieged on all sides by an army of dead men. 100, 200 or more. It's impossible to say. You're fighting them in a large open space, a field that looks not unlike the ones outside of McGreer's village. And you find that you cannot cut the dead man with your psychic knives. It's just, you attack them to no effect. And you know that you're about to be overwhelmed. They're going to swarm you entirely.
Okay.
As a bonus action, before taking an attack action on your turn to which sneak attack applies, you can change the damage type of your psychic knives to fire, cold, lightning, thunder, poison, acid, necrotic, or back to psychic. On the turn you make this change, if the target does not have resistance or immunity to that damage type, it is vulnerable to it instead. The damage type reverts to psychic after 1 minute.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
No, so bonus action, before I do a sneak attack, I can change the damage type to fire, cold, lightning.
There's a
thunder.
long list.
Yeah, big long list of stuff. And if they're not resistant, they become vulnerable.
Do you accept this class feature?
What's the cost?
The dead men are closing in around you.
Yes.
All right, I will paste you the class feature on Discord.
Okay.
And you begin felling the dead men by changing your knives to fire instead, to which you know the undead are vulnerable. You cut down 24 of them, easily, as they're swarming around your family. But as you're cutting down the last of them, you realize the swipes of your daggers are cutting huge swaths of fire, setting fire to the field beneath you. And the final few dead men you cut down don't look like zombies at all, but rather look like members of your own family. I need to see Ekon next, if you don't mind.
Okay, sounds traumatizing.
Yo.
You dream. You're beset by a mass of dead men, an army of them, 100 or 200. You're in a field with your family, not unlike the ones outside of McGreer's village. And you're totally spent. The swarm is surrounding you. There's no escape. After casting a spell of level 1 or higher, make a DC 12 spellcasting ability check. On a success, the spell slot is not expended. Each time you use this feature, the DC increases by 3. The feature stops functioning if you fail the check, or if the DC is 30 or higher. The DC resets to 12 at the end of a long rest. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me finish writing down.
Do you accept this class feature?
Oh, am I allowed to reject it?
You are.
And I have no idea how I'm getting this?
The zombies are closing in around you and yours.
I think I have enough spells. I got plenty of fireballs.
So you are not accepting it.
Yeah.
Okay, then you do not copy the class feature onto your character sheet.
Okay.
Alright, we can go rejoin the kids now.
Wedges?
So Garula won, right? We all agree?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry, Garuda.
Yeah, Garuda. Yeah.
So, each of you had a dream. The same dream, in fact. You confirm the next morning after you wake up. You find yourself safe and sound on the opposite side of a bridge. The bridge looks the same from your side. The wooden bridge stretching out over the wide river. You can see where it connects on the opposite bank, not far away. But there's no village here, like you were expecting. In the dream, as you wake up, you realize that part of the nightmare of this place has reached out to you, and you didn't perhaps realize it was a nightmare at the time. How many of you would each of you say accepted the dark power?
Probably 75% of us.
3.
Ekon thinks very highly of your group, thinks only 2 of you will have succumbed to the temptation. No other guesses?
I didn't say anything.
All 6 of us, or excuse me, all 5 of us.
Yeah, are we talking about just like between us or also including the NPCs?
Well, you haven't had time to regroup with the NPCs yet. You guys are just coming out of your stupor.
Oh,
Kind
Victor is going to assume like all but one of us.
Everyone but Ekon.
And in fact, that is the case. All of you accepted the dark power except for Ekon.
That's about what I expected.
Yeah. I didn't know if you wanted to hold that under your hat, Brickroad.
Evie,
Yes.
this is the second time you feel yourself kind of come to groggily. You recall a few moments coming to, having laid sprawled on the bridge. You weren't in any pain. It wasn't difficult to breathe. It was just like you were rousing out of a long, uncomfortable sleep. But you realized you couldn't move. Your muscles were totally relaxed. The mists were swarming around you, and you can see, not laying far away from you, from behind, you can see the silhouette of your sister, Jeannie. And there was someone moving amongst you, and you were trying to gather the strength to speak before sleep took you again. And as you all wake up and are starting to discuss what you've seen, you realize that you alone saw that portion of it. No one else came to on the bridge.
There was someone else here.
Did you see them?
I saw
What
something.
did it look like?
I couldn't tell. I was paralyzed, but I saw someone moving among us.
Orson, Trieste, and Abernathy all had similar dreams to you guys about the field and the dead men. And all of them say they rejected the power.
Victor does not believe them.
So, my question to Evie, Jeannie, Edmont, and Victor is, do any of you lie about having rejected the power?
Evie doesn't volunteer it.
Okay.
Edmont doesn't volunteer either.
I mean, after a minute, though, it comes up. You guys are coming to on the side of the bridge, and the question's going to be put to you. You're going to have to say yay
Edmont
or
will
nay.
say no.
Evie says she will do what is necessary to protect her family.
Victor proudly says that he always embraces and seeks new knowledge.
So Edmund is lying about the power because he accepted it, but he's telling his family that he rejected it. Victor and Evie are being upfront. What about Jeannie?
Jeannie will just kind of shrug and say, it seemed like the best thing to do at the time.
And
Good way of putting
Ekon,
it.
are you going to be an agent of chaos and lie about accepting it?
I think Ekon will just not. He won't say one way or the other, honestly, in this situation.
Those of you who accepted the power in the light of day, and it is a bright, sunny morning with no trace of mist or ill weather around, you get a sinking feeling that what happened last night might have been a very bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well,
Running off into the mists all by our lonesomes.
No, accepting a dark boon.
So do you all want to share what your dark boons are with the class now that you've all accepted them?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Was I the only one who asked if it was optional to accept the power?
No?
I asked what the consequence was.
Oh,
I
yeah,
asked
you weren't
what I was
getting
gonna have
anything
to
for
give.
that.
I asked what I had to give in exchange.
In fact, Edmund said, let's do the stupid thing. I know
I did
this.
say that.
This
I know
is
this is a bad decision.
Yeah, he knew it was a bad thing to do at the time and still did it.
I asked
So,
if,
to be clear, the powers are real. They are on your character sheet if you accepted them. And they're not trivial. They're fairly powerful. These are all pretty good.
Yeah.
Until something bad happens when you use them.
Until something bad happens.
So Victor can now exchange his psionic damage for pretty much any other damage type.
That is pretty nice.
I can take a magic item with no charges and load any spell scroll I want into it up to my Artificer level, and it gets an Artificer level of charges. So I happen to have a scroll of Counterspell, and that's going right into my... So just so you know, Brickroad, you're never going to be able to have a caster for the rest of the campaign.
So your Artificer level right now is 4, yes?
5.
5. So you have 5 charges. What item are you putting the spell into?
Actually, this is a good question. So I have a class feature, and let me see. Let me read it. I don't think it will meet this, but when I got to level 5, I got a new class feature called Arcane Firearm. You know, turn a wand, staff, or rod into Arcane Firearm. A conduit for your destructive spells. You carve special magical sigils into a wand, staff, or rod and turn it into an Arcane Fire wand.
As long as it doesn't have charges, then yeah, you can use that and store Counterspell in it. So it has 5 charges now. They recharge at a long rest, and it takes 3 of them to cast Counterspell with it.
Oh, it takes a... Okay.
Right. So you've got... And when you gain another level of Artificer, you'll be able to do it twice, because they'll have 6 charges.
Right. I'm not going to... see, I don't know if I want to do that just yet, but I was just wondering. I'll think about that. Like, the thing is it's like...
I think Edmonds has the worst one. I think Edmonds is the weakest by far.
Okay.
Whenever I flurry of blows, each of the flurry gets stunning strike on top of it.
Excuse me.
Just for free.
That's rude.
Actually sounds pretty good.
Well, if that's the worst one, I can't imagine what the others are like.
I think the only one who hasn't shared is Evie.
Oh, Evie's is incredible. When she grants advantage to someone using her Master of Tactics, any roll below a 10 becomes a 10, and it grants improved critical, so they crit on a 19. And if they miss, she can immediately give advantage to someone else instead. It's a reaction.
I don't even think we should share what Ekon's is. I don't think any of them deserve to know.
No, I don't.
They'll have to watch the video back. So yeah, it becomes clear over the course of the morning. Jayla says, or at least she claims, that she had no such dream. And so does Leotgard.
What about Tenny?
Tenny as well. So it looks like you lot, Orson, and the Ambersons.
Ekon is the only one who said no.
Orson, Trieste, and Abernathy are also saying they rejected the Nightmare's offer.
With the circumstances of that dream, saying no didn't make sense unless you are like a priest.
I mean, given our actions in the village, yeah.
So the problem is there was supposed to be a village on the far side of this bridge, and there's not. I'll let one of you make a nature check.
You don't want me to do that.
Including one of the NPCs if you'd rather use one of them. You can make it at advantage if there's 2 amongst you that are trained at nature.
Let me see. Nature. Orson's nature is... He's survival, not nature.
Correct.
No, he has nature. He has nature.
Okay.
So Orson's got nature. I don't.
I don't.
I've got a +3. Orson would be a +2. So I actually beat him. Anybody beat a +3?
Nope.
So does it have to be somebody trained in nature?
If you have somebody who needs to be trained to make the check, and then if somebody else is trained, they can assist, turning it into advantage.
Oh, okay. Is any of the other NPCs?
Leotard
Hey, we
has
can
it.
get rid of Deddy.
I already got rid of Denny. I got
is
rid of
it?
him the second he died.
Okay. What is Leotard's thing? I'll roll and.
Leotard has a.
That's a.
He has a +3 to nature.
Okay, so +3. So that's a 15 and a 15.
Okay. Orson and Lakard do some just rudimentary scouting in the area. They don't leave your eyesight. They don't leave your eye shot. They don't want to abandon the group or split it up at all. But just with a rudimentary amount of scouting, just kind of moving maybe 100 meters up the river in one direction and then down the river in the other, they both agree that this is not the same bridge that you crossed. The river's too far beneath you. The landscape has different kinds of plants and trees around. They don't have an explanation for it. About the same. It feels like it'd be midsummer, although it feels like a drier heat. It's not quite as humid as where you were before.
Like I said, this whole place isn't real. It's just dropping us from one horror to the next.
I will bet you money that if we try and cross the bridge the other way, we will not go back to where we came from.
No bet.
At this,
Yeah, not taking that bet.
you see Giela unlatch her pistol from her holster, put her grip on it. She nods up the road. Someone's coming. You turn, and in the distance, sure enough, there's movement way up the road.
Screw it. Let's go say hi.
Pull bow, don't draw an arrow, but definitely got it in hand.
Yeah, I'll pull my Arcane Firearm out.
Victor will take a couple steps forward.
And you're just waiting for the movement down the road, because as it comes into view, you realize it's a large wheelhouse. It's a carriage. Not a wagon like what you used to ride up to McGreer's village. It's being drawn by presumably 2 large horses, but you can't make out any more details than that.
Here we go again. Victor just kind of shakes his head and waits.
Everybody get off the road except for the people that are going to kind of flag them down, so in case they decide to run us over.
Well, yeah, if anybody staying on the road, they would have to drive through you to get onto the bridge.
Right. I'm afraid that they'll just do that. So everybody to the side except for a few of us. Yeah.
Yeah, the party, the player characters.
Okay, so by that, you 5 and Orson?
Yeah.
Okay. You make up a line on the road, and after a few moments, like the great clattering and clanking sound of this wheelhouse bouncing its way down this uneven path and approaching the bridge, the driver is a small figure. At first, you think he's a halfling, similar to the villagers that you just left in McGreer's. But after it gets close enough, you realize that it's just a very badly hunched over human. His muscles strained and turned at awkward angles, and with some difficulty, he brings the wheelhouse to a stop, causes the 2 horses to rear up, and he climbs down and very carefully, like each step is measured carefully, steps towards you. So at this point, he is flanked by your party. You got half of your people on one side of the road, half on the other, and you guys on the bridge in front of him. He reaches up and doffs his cap, and he speaks to you in very, very bad Ferniskin. Begging your
what?
pardon, you are Veritas.
Who are you?
Edmont, eyes go big and nods.
And he matches Edmund's eyes, and Edmund nods, and you see the man has a grotesque smile crosses his face. But you see some relief there as well.
You're the first person to speak that tongue in these lands that we've met.
He says, I am pleased to make acquaintance.
Who are you, stranger?
And
Where are we?
he hears Victor and Evie talking, but you guys realize he doesn't understand what you're saying.
Ah.
And he motions to the wheelhouse and says, His Grace would like to meet you. Big enough for all, yes? Motioning towards the wheelhouse.
Tell him to come out. Victor will try it and say this in Darkanese with what basic stuff he knows.
When you respond, I mean, all of you pretty much know Darkanese at this point, yes? Is there anybody still making those checks? Or
Mostly. Yeah, no.
I've got still a couple days left.
Okay. So, Victor, you respond in Darkanese, and the man addresses you in Darkanese. And again, you see some relief. And he converses with you a little bit. He introduces himself as Goroshu, a serving man for His Grace. Regrettably, His Grace has not come in person, but has rather sent the wheelhouse to retrieve you, to take you to a place where you can be comfortable and well-fed and have the weariness of the road washed from you.
Evie says in Darkanese, the last people who made that offer to us tried to kill us.
We're gonna need some assurances there, friend.
Goroshu's a little taken aback. Allow me to offer apologies. And you see that he's trying to find the words in Ferniscan to offer apologies to the rest, but he's unable to do so. He just stammers out some gibberish that doesn't make any sense to you.
What is the name of your lord? What is the name of his house?
He has the pleasure and majesty of being Aslan Rex, King of Darkon.
Why does he want to see us?
His Grace fears that your party, the Veritas, are in great danger.
How do you know who we
It's a
are?
little late.
What did Evie ask?
How do you know who we are?
And he takes his cap off again and tucks it into his chest. Begging your pardon, miss. He says His Grace has seen you, and has seen you in great danger.
Oh, we don't have anything better to do, and we were looking for we were going to go look for a noble house where we were previously. This just means we don't have to walk.
Victor's gonna start walking around the back of the carriage to investigate.
Okay. So the wheelhouse, it's enormous, for one thing. This is a cumbersome beast of a wheelhouse. Big enough to hold what remains of your party. You'd have to actually climb up onto the step if you want to peer into the window and see inside. There are curtains, but they're not drawn. They stand open.
Victor's just gonna try and flat out open the door.
Yeah, you reach up, you put one foot on the little lip outside and step up and get a hold of the clasp and pull it open. Peering inside, the wheelhouse is empty. There's only a door on one side of it, but there are cushioned seats against the back wall, against the front wall, and against the opposite side of the carriage. You all would have a place to sit in here. Might be a little cramped, and Tenny and Evie might have to sit on the floor.
Is there any evidence of magic?
You don't detect any.
Jeannie just quietly gets in the wheelhouse. Fine, I'll go.
Edmont nods and says, "We'll accept your lord's offer."
His Grace will be
He's,
most pleased.
Like I said, this is what we were planning to do anyway. It's just the difference is we're going to a different location and we don't have to walk.
Victor just kind of shrugs, says
Edmund
"Soon will be killed," and gets inside.
Calls out the others and says, "This fellow has offered to take us to a place of rest and comfort."
And you see Jayla's eyes narrow. Says, "Do you remember what happened last time we were offered that?"
Yes, I agree, but at this as it stands right now, we have no better options. Unless you consider traipsing about the wilderness for another couple of weeks to be the better option.
Victor will yell out, "Jayla, quit your bitching and get inside. We know we're gonna die anyway. May as well be ready for it."
So Victor has converted to just pure nihilism at this point.
For the moment, he's very upset over Denny's death.
Really?
Why?
Because you didn't get to kill him?
The right for us to deal with him was stolen.
Goroshu tells you, he's speaking Darkanese, and he's only addressing the people that he has been spoken to in Darkanese. One of you that speaks Darkanese, if you'd like to give me an insight check, that might be appropriate here.
Do it.
I got a +4.
I have a +8.
Well, that's on you then.
Oh well, I rolled a 5.
Okay.
Is there any way that I can?
You can assist, yeah, if you both speak
Yeah.
Darkanese well enough.
Yeah, go for it. Roll again. Do better.
I'll
Be
try.
better. Be better.
It's not better. It's
What?
way worse.
It's really
God.
not. So the 5 stands, so what does that turn into with your bonus?
13.
A 13?
You're way worse than McDohl ever was. Holy shit.
I feel like
It's
I
gonna
feel
happen session 0. Okay.
I feel like we lost something when I feel like he was shielding the rest of us with his dice rolls, and then like when he left, it's just
The curse jumped to me.
the curse jumped to everybody.
You all have. It's been diluted, though. So,
No, it isn't.
conversing with this man, he's very relieved to be speaking Darkanese. And you get the sense that he was told by his master or whoever has sent him that you wouldn't be able to. The side effect of that is as you do converse, he's only speaking with the people that speak Darkanese. Once he knows that he doesn't have to fall back on the language he doesn't know very well, maybe only phonetically, he kind of singles probably Evie and Jeannie out, especially in the group. There's no other objections except for Giela's, and in the end, she also doesn't have a better option than wandering the wilderness. But when she sits in the back of the wheelhouse with her pistol on her lap. So those of you sitting opposite her, behind you would be a small window where Goroshu is sitting on the other side of driving the horses. There's no such thing as a comfortable wheelhouse on uneven roads, but it's been made as comfortable as can be expected. To those of you for which it's relevant, you do not detect any magic at hand in the wheelhouse or on Goroshu. There's no spells in effect that you can tell. And you're directed that there are compartments underneath 2 of the benches into which dried meats, fruits, and hard breads have been placed, as well as a jar of honey and a couple of bottles of from His Grace's stores in order to help ease your comfort on the road, for the journey is long.
How far away is it?
He answers the question by regaling you with information about the regions you'll be traveling through. Here's what you learn right away. Well, first of all, I'm going to ask, because he's answering, like I said, kind of poetically with descriptions of where you'll be traveling. And instead of just, if you were back in Ferniska and you ask how far away is it, they would say X days travel by horseback. It would be an exact measure of distance. You would know if you travel by a particular means down a particular road, how long it would take. Or if they had the measurement at hand, they would give a measure of distance. It's 100 miles as the crow flies. Those are not the kinds of answers you get. How hard do you press him for that sort of specificity?
I mean, I want to hear about the land we're in.
Okay.
I pressed him pretty hard because Jeannie's about hard numbers.
Jeannie, make an insight check.
Okay. 6.
A 6? He doesn't answer to your satisfaction, and it's frustrating. But he does tell you about the various regions that you're traveling through, some of their long histories, about how your roads will take you over ancient stone paths built long before His Grace came to Darkhan, and over this river and that, and you'll be going around one mountain range, which is too difficult to travel through, but passing through a second mountain range through which ancient tunnels have been bored.
Victor's going to ask if he knows about elves.
Does Victor speak Darkanese at this point?
Mostly.
Mostly?
Not fluently.
It takes a few moments before he realizes what you're asking. And his response, you can't see his face because he's up above you driving the wagon, but you can tell the inflection of his voice kind of lights up a little. It says, His Grace has many stories about the Sylvan folk, although none live in Darkon in the modern age.
Well, Evie, there goes your idea.
Sounds like the same as what happened in Fernisco. They used to live here, but now they don't.
Who has the longest amount of time to wait before they're done learning the language? Because you guys can continue doing that during this journey.
I've got 10 more days to learn.
I've got like 16.
16?
Victor's got like 20, I think.
20? Okay. Also, Victor, you're not really asking him any questions then. You're kind of, you and him are stumbling back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Evie will help.
Yeah.
Along the journey, the traveling is very bumpy. The roads are not smooth, but the actual passage is smooth. Once or twice, you pass through villages that are completely emptied out, just ghost towns. In some of these, there seems to be no immediate reason as to why. The buildings weren't destroyed by war or natural disaster. The fields around them just look overgrown. It doesn't look like they couldn't be planted properly. But most unsettling is that when you enter into one of these ghost towns, Goroshu doesn't announce its presence unless he's pressed on it.
Evie, can you try and find out why all these are ghost towns? Like, what happened here?
So I can't help but notice that these towns don't seem particularly lively.
And when you point it out, he's able to tell you the name that each village had taken and the last lord that had been sent out to oversee it. And maybe even, depending on the region you're passing through, how far away and where that lord resided. He only calls these places failed villages and doesn't really expound on what has happened to them.
During
He's
go ahead.
He's not giving me straight answers.
So
You feel like he's giving you truthful answers, but they're not satisfactory. What was Ekon's question?
During the trip, do I have a chance to do a long rest and cast Ascending?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I have Ascending for Platin.
Okay.
Then he's dead, killed by the children, dumped into the mine, crossed the bridge, lost to the mist. Where are you? Air's light, guide your path.
Is that exactly 25 words?
Yes, obviously.
Of course it is. One of these, he's going to roll up a character that always used 24 words instead.
It's like in every sending with ...
So
The
failed
gist
villages.
is that Platin had a particular line of investigation he wanted to check, and he asked Lair to assist him with it, and it took him a day out of the village. He didn't want to bring it to anyone else's attention until he was sure. It didn't pan out. This is to do with the protection that he thought was on the village. When they returned to the village, after, like, it would have been the day after you all, no, the day after you guys left. There was no sign of you. Nobody in the village was able to give them straight answers about when you left or what direction you had went. Platin and Lair knew that you guys were heading out towards the bridge the next morning, but none of them were able to say that that's where you left. Half of the stories were they went out to the north, half the stories were they went out to the south. But all of you are the most pleasant guests they've ever had, and they cannot wait until you return again.
I'll cast another Sending after that, giving him more detail and telling him to get the hell out right now.
Yeah, I can assume over the course of a couple days, because you can send and receive once per day, yes?
No, I can do twice. I've got 2 slots.
Okay. So yeah, they had no idea anything was actually happening. There was no sign in the village that there had been attacks.
The roof of the hall wasn't burnt out?
They were replacing the roof. They told them that they do it every season. That they would have done it before the harvest, but you all arrived right around that time, and they needed the place to put you guys up.
That's a lie.
How convenient. They weren't. He didn't like. They didn't notice missing villagers.
I mean, they had never done a census of the village. They wouldn't be able to
Right.
recognize a couple
We
of them.
didn't kill that many of them.
I know exactly how many you killed.
I killed 0. I don't know about anybody else.
I killed one.
So, very important piece of information. The first is that once you tell Pladen and Lair to get out of the village, Pladen responds that he's going to. He's going to take your warning very seriously. The second thing you're aware of is the sending went through.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't blocked. It wasn't reverted. It didn't do anything silly or out of the ordinary.
We should. There's a couple of things, Ekon, when we have some time that I want to try.
Yeah.
With your magic.
Yeah, I think we could try sending to Ruby, for instance.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to try. But the other thing I also want to try is, you now have the miracle to end curses, correct?
Yeah.
Try that on Donique.
Oh, that's a good point. I just thought of that.
I think it's a curse.
So, as for sending to Ruby, the spell fails. It's just,
Okay.
As far as you know, the word's just left, and that's it. That's all the information you get. Using Remove Curse on Donique does not reverse her condition. So you guys spend the days riding in the Wheelhouse. And each evening, Gorsha brings the Wheelhouse to a stop. And you could tell the nature of whatever his condition is that keeps him hunched over and bent. It's a great amount of effort each night as he builds a fire, rings it with stones, places a pot over it, and cooks everybody a simple stew for dinner. You find him a very amiable fellow.
Ekon. Can you do anything about his situation?
I mean, I don't have like regeneration or anything. This looks like it's physiological.
It's a physical deformation.
Yeah, like I don't.
Like if
I
it's
don't really have anything outside of like try and do ridiculous surgery, slicing them open.
Yeah,
which I don't want to do out in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, if it's like bones that set badly, we'd have to break them, and then no. When he's setting up dinner one night, I'm gonna sit next to him, around where the fire is, and
Sure.
ask him questions. Like, what can you tell us about your lord? Like, what, other than his name, we haven't really heard anything.
And to that, you notice that he's evasive might be the wrong word, but you get the sense that he doesn't have permission to answer those sorts of questions. All you really learn is that His Grace is looking forward to meeting all of you, and that you'll be there in some number of days.
Yeah, and then the other question I'll ask him.
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, if that was the case, then is there anything that we don't want to give offense to our host? Is there anything that we should avoid doing in his presence, or in his home?
He, a little apologetically, he states, begging your pardon, I was led to believe that Veritas family was of noble birth. His Grace has given me no instruction in this.
I guess, and I'll look at Edmont and go, I guess normal house protocol, and shrug at him.
Sure, good as any, I guess.
At least you don't have to babysit Denny.
Yeah, no joke.
No,
The
I'm kidding.
only other question I have for him is to ask if he is aware of the village that we came from, and if he does, how far of a distance away is it?
He says that the name McGreer is known to him, but he apologizes. He would not be able to locate it on a map if you had one.
Do you know about what direction it is? Just a general direction.
And if you had traveled from this village recently, I could only say that it is now behind you, and that His Grace's invitation is ahead.
Well, we have the reason I ask is we have companions that we were separated from, and we wanted to give them a direction to travel.
It is regrettable that you've been separated from some number of your party, but perhaps His Grace would be able to assist in finding them.
Okay.
That'd be most agreeable, yes.
I mean, that's an acceptable answer for now for Jeannie.
11 days pass riding in this wheelhouse. And it's much different than coming up the road in McGreer's wagons. You have a lot more room, for one. The wheelhouse doesn't stop more than a couple times a day. You break your camp in the morning, have a simple breakfast. At midday, the wheelhouse comes to a stop again. And it kind of, it's admirable in a way. This man, obviously, he has some significant pains from his deformity, but he never grouses about it. He always seems to be in a cheery mood, and he takes on all of the physical labor of breaking camp and cooking meals and things, tending to the horses without complaints. And if you offer to help him, he insists that you are already guests of His Grace and that it would not be appropriate. Twice along the road, you're set upon by what can only be described as brigands, highwaymen, guys who are out on the road, casing down wagons. When this happens, well, I guess I'll ask this. The first time this happens, because it happens twice during your journey. The first time, what is your response as the wagon comes to a stop much too early in the day?
Brought weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are your weapons?
Yeah.
Overwhelming
Yep.
violence. That's...
And
I mean, how many of them are there the first time?
looking out the window, down the road over Goroshu's shoulder, 6 or 7. They're coming out on the road and they've got wooden cudgels. One of them has an old rusty axe. One of them is wearing...
I'm gonna ignite a fireball directly over their heads and yell in a loud voice, "Turn back the way you came."
You seem to
Fireball.
surprise Goroshu more than anything. The men look discombobulated for a moment. Goroshu turns. Please, there's no need. You can sheathe your weapons. They will not be necessary.
Who are they?
Goroshu brings the horses to a halt, ties up the reins, hops down, and you watch for a few tense moments as he approaches the men unarmed on the road. They look angry because they just got yelled at and a firebolt exploded over their head.
Fireball, not bolt.
You cast fireball in the air over their head?
Yeah.
Then by the time Goroshu gets down onto the road, there's no sign of them as they broke and ran in 5 different directions. And Goroshu limps back and takes his seat in the carriage and turns and says that it was a spectacular display of pyrotechnics, and he doffs his cap to you. But it will not be necessary in the future.
Victor asks who they were.
Highwaymen, thieves. They rob wagons and traders and other folks that use the roads. But they would not touch guests of His Grace. And then the journey resumes. So the second time that happens, a few days later, with a different group of vagabonds, does Ekon do the same thing?
No, I've been told that they will leave us be.
And sure enough, you watch for a tense few moments. At the first, you're thinking, there's no way. Like, I'm going to have to fireball again. Because you've got the little humped man, unarmed, doffs his cap, walks up, and you can't hear what he says. But whatever he says did the trick. And the men drag their weapons off to the side of the road and do not bar your passage again. And you can tell, those of you sitting opposite the door, you'd be looking through the window on the door out onto the road where the men are standing. They are all averting their gaze. They're not so much as looking at the wheelhouse, let alone meeting your eyes.
gentleman we're going to visit seems to have quite a bit of pull. If even the outlaws respect him.
On the 12th day, the great castle comes into view in the distance. Usually a castle, a fortification of this kind, would be built on the highest place in the surrounding land. This one is not. This one is built in between two large hills overlooking on either side. If this was a fortification in the Republic, it would not make any sense. An enemy would be able to siege really easily. You want to have some kind of fortifications on the hills, at least. None here. There is a bustling village in front of the castle, but there's large double stone curtain walls all around the castle grounds itself. Traveling through the village, Goroshu does not stop the Wheelhouse, and everybody that you pass, nobody is willing to look up and meet your eyes, just like the brigands on the road. Crossing in between the curtain walls, it's getting on into evening at this point. It's about the time where people would start setting candles in windowsills. But there's illumination from the guardhouse that you're going to drive this Wheelhouse through. And that's kind of the first marvel, is that the gatehouse is wide enough to accommodate this gargantuan Wheelhouse. You're going to be driving it directly into the yard outside the main keep. The illumination, your first thought would have that it's fire. But it's not. They're not torches set into sconces. They're not lanterns set out on hooks. You see glass bulbs set into the stone high above in the archway, just casting illumination down. And Ekon, who else is trained in Arcana besides Ekon?
Genie is, of course.
Victor
It's
is.
Genie and Victor.
Okay, so the three of you, your first guess is like, okay, it's a trick of magic. There's some, like, Ekon does this all the time. You guys are dressed entirely in things that Ekon can illuminate with a prayer, but there's no magic. It's not magical light. It's sunlight, and you're not sure how it's hanging there from the stone. It doesn't make any sense. After this, there is a flurry of activity as servants pour out into the yard, and names and faces are thrown at you very, very quickly. They're coming down to help with any baggage you're carrying. They're going to tend to any wounds you may have. They're going to bring you inside and ensure that hot baths are run for all of you. This bevy of servants, at least a dozen of them, men and women both, and several children as well, tending to His Grace's guests. A few of them speak the same broken Ferniscan that Goroshu did, but for the most part, they're speaking Darkanese.
Did know where they learned from Niskin.
For the part of your party, Lugrin, Abernathy, and Trieste are... Well, Abernathy and Trieste are kind of warily accepting of the hospitality. Lugrin, however, immediately, like, yep, I'm home. This is fine. I drank all the wine in the Wheelhouse. And you know what? He kind of has this outlook, like, if we're all going to be murdered in our sleep by halflings, let's at least have a bath and a good meal first.
He's not wrong.
The servants, however... it becomes clear, they're not asking permission, but it becomes clear they're going to separate you. You six are going to be brought forth before His Grace, and the rest of your party are going to be taken to their quarters that have already been prepared. This is what's starting to happen as the Wheelhouse is pulling away so the horses can be stabled. So the first decision is, what is the reaction to that?
Evie is immediately resistant to the idea of being separated from Tenny.
Nope.
Edmont shows concern. He says, "I would like at least to know where everyone is being birthed at."
Goroshu tells you that the southwestern wing of the castle has been made ready to receive your party, that you will find it spacious and comfortable, but His Grace has commanded that you speak to him first.
Very well, Goroshu.